From MTN News, this is Montana This Morning.
I'm Edgar Cedillo in Bozeman. After weeks of waiting and a nearly 5-hour meeting, Bozeman city leaders passed an ordinance that would require urban campers to move from city streets. I'll tell you the big change from the meeting, and I'll have reaction.
The number of fatalities in that little stretch that we're talking about and accidents has seemed to increase a lot. I think part of it is distracted driving, the number of cars.
Now, do you know the best ways to protect yourself on dangerous local highways? Just ahead, the Gallatin County Sheriff shows us the best ways to keep you and your family safe when you're on the road. And the word impeachment is seemingly thrown out or threatened every other month by politicians. Is this the new normal that Americans can expect on Capitol Hill? We're going to take a look at this unsettling trend.
Behind this tarp is a new mural in Butte. I'll introduce you to the artist and what it commemorates.
Alrighty, 6:31 on this Thursday edition of Montana This Morning. Jane McDonald and Chet Lehman with us. Chet, good morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. And you?
Good, doing very well. And looking out over the mining city, dark. It's 6:30, and that is a true testament. Fall is here.
And I'm going to make it real easy for folks here in Southwest Montana. Just go ahead and look outside.
Okay.
It'll get lighter today, but it's not going to really get any warmer,
Oh.
and it's not going to get any drier. That's what we're looking at.
Get the raincoats and the umbrellas ready.
There you go. Take a look. Temperatures right now in Southwest Montana ranging from the upper 30s out in Phillipsburg, Wise River, into the low 40s or 50s, I should say, out at Bozeman Yellowstone International Airport. As far as that goes, those overnight lows in the 30s, we could see some snow in the peaks tonight, at least above 7,000 feet. More on that, more on our rainy forecast, and then we're going to kick off fall in style. I have that forecast as well coming up.
All right, looking forward to it, Chet. Thank you very much. Now, our top story for this half hour. After a 5-hour-long meeting that had been postponed for more than a month, Bozeman is one step closer to enacting a new ordinance to restrict urban camping. And MTN's Edgar Cedillo explains how it will impact camping on city streets.
Weeks after Bozeman city leaders proposed an ordinance that would require campers who are parking on city streets to move every 5 days, that ordinance finally came back up to discussion on Tuesday night. The big difference that got this ordinance through the hurdle is that city leaders decided that urban campers should now move every 30 days.
Aye. Motion passes 4-0.
So my point is, if I can have difficulty finding housing, of course there will be many who do not qualify for any housing.
After hours of debate in favor and against the ordinance,
I guess I'd like you to consider that this ordinance doesn't go nearly far enough in addressing the issues that we're facing.
Bozeman city leaders passed an ordinance that requires the city's unhoused to move.
City Commission amended that to 30 days. We think that's a reasonable time frame.
Dozens of people packed City Hall, including many of those who are living on the streets.
I do not disagree that the city should implement rules and consequences for the campers, being one myself. The situation has gotten a bit out of hand, it looks bad, it's dirty, and unfortunately it angers and frightens certain members of our community.
Much of the concern with those who were against the proposal was the proposed time limit of 5 days.
Please extend that deadline significantly. Many of the campers are honest, hardworking people just trying to survive with hope of getting their lives back on track.
While many business leaders said that an ordinance should have been passed long ago.
These campers are near my business where I host middle school workouts. I do not feel safe having kids walk alone near these campers in tents.
After a 4-0 vote and changes to the ordinance, HRDC's Brian Geyer says that this was not a victory for both sides.
I don't see this as a victory. You know, we still have a community where our housing crisis is so acute that people are still sleeping on the street. I think that the City Commission landed on a compromise, and both people on every side of the issue walked away from this meeting a little disappointed and a little pleased.
Now the city manager tells me that city staff and the city attorneys need a little bit more time to finalize last night's amendments before they come onto a second hearing. That second hearing could take place in about a month, and then if that does pass at the second reading, this ordinance will take place 30 days after that. In Bozeman, Edgar Cedillo, MTN News.
Thank you very much, Edgar. A topic we'll absolutely continue to follow here on Montana This Morning. Now, after 2 major crashes and 2 fatalities on Interstate 90 between Belgrade and Three Forks last week, some residents are asking about the safety of travel on that stretch of road. MTN's Kristen Merkel rides along with Gallatin County's sheriff to talk about driving safety on our local highways.
Essentially, between Belgrade and Manhattan is 10, Manhattan and Three Forks is 10. So it's kind of this 20-mile stretch of road.
Just a week ago, 2 people died when one vehicle crossed the median on this stretch of road, and a few days later, another major accident on I-90 occurred. Those people luckily survived.
The majority of our fatalities here recently have occurred here on this first 10 miles of stretch.
Both apparently caused by drivers who reportedly lost control. I went on a ride along with Gallatin County Sheriff Dan Springer to discuss the recent increase in
distracted driving, the number of cars. No question we have more residents living in the Manhattan, Three Forks area.
Deputies are trained in defensive driving.
Our guys go through a significant amount of training to try and figure out how to recover those types of events. As you're coming up on a turn like this would be essentially a blind curve, and as I'm passing here, I don't know what's coming towards me, right? So some of the driving lessons as far as defensive driving, you would prefer that the person be in the driving lane as you go around these corners.
Other advice, stay off your phone.
Phones are definitely the primary culprit to that. We see people on their phones all the time.
The sheriff points out new safety measures being added to the highway.
Real quick here, you can see here where they're putting in these high tension lines. And the intention of these in the median is to keep vehicles from, once they go into the median, then keeping them from coming all the way across into oncoming lane.
The sheriff also blames speed and a hard winter for a lot of crashes. So be aware, slow down, and
just put the phone down while you're driving. I think oftentimes they think when I get on the interstate I'm fine because it's just a straightaway. And I think that's why we're seeing some of these crashes.
In Bozeman, Kristen Merkel, MTN News.
Thank you very much, Kristen. Now, Montana Highway Patrol compiles numbers and breaks them down by districts. So for the Butte District, so far this year, there have been 7 interstate fatalities. Compare that to 6 of all of last year and 8 in 2021. Deaths on primary highways in the Butte area are running on par with the past 2 years, with more than 3 months to go. Total fatalities also are about where they were for the past 2 years. Now for the Bozeman district numbers, through the end of August, it shows 2 interstate fatalities, but 2 more were added last week. Primary highway deaths are way up over both the past 2 years, and total fatalities of 19 this year, above last year's total of 7 and 2021's total of 5. Now, statewide, we are at 17 fatalities in August this year. Compare that to 25 last year and 30 in 2021. Through the end of August, 121 people have died on Montana highways this year. Now, zooming out a little bit onto the national scene, the word impeachment, it's seemingly thrown around or threatened every other month by politicians. Now, is this the new normal that Americans can expect on Capitol Hill? Well, Scripps News' Stephanie Liebergen delves further into this impeachment trend.
The House Republicans' impeachment inquiry into President Biden is ramping up, and this could lead to the 3rd presidential impeachment in just 4 years. Experts and even some lawmakers say impeachment should be rare, but that certainly hasn't been the case recently.
I think the founders left this deliberately to a political process.
The U.S. Constitution sets the bar for impeachment at high crimes and misdemeanors, but nowhere is that defined further.
The idea was that when it's concluded that it's no longer a good idea for a person serving in federal office to remain in office, they should be removed. But that there was no way they were going to limit this to actual crimes.
In reality, it's up to the 435 members of the House of Representatives to determine what qualifies for impeachment, and the old rules no longer seem to apply.
The old rules were you had to have plenty of very solid evidence of wrongdoing on the part of a president of the United States before you could begin an impeachment inquiry.
We're living in a time of really high partisanship where the two parties are very competitive, and almost all of their decision making is influenced by trying to gain an advantage in the next election. One scholar has dubbed this the age of impeachment.
So what could roll back that impeachment clock? History shows it takes strong leaders willing to resist calls for impeachment from inside their own party.
Former Speaker John Boehner really resisted those in his party who wanted to impeach former President Obama. Former Speaker Nancy Pelosi similarly resisted that during the Bush administration when Democrats regained the House and Senate. And so, we have seen examples where leadership matters.
Stephanie Liebergen, Scripps News, Washington.
Now back here in some Treasure State headlines, the Finland Hotel in Butte gets a very special birthday present. MTN's John Amy is going to introduce us to an artist painting a mural for the historic hotel.
A renowned London artist came all the way to Butte to paint this mural behind this tarp, which commemorates the 100th birthday of the historic Finland Hotel. So come with me and I'll give you a sneak peek.
There is a central figure, and she is an intrepid explorer. That's the name of the mural. We're celebrating 100 years of the Finland Hotel, and it includes various elements of Montana and Butte.
Peregrine Heathcote was hired by the hotel's owner, J.J. Adams, after he saw some of his work in New York. Heathcote spent nearly a month painting the mural on an outside wall under the protective covering of a tarp.
So we've got the mile-high, mile-deep mine head, which is visible just there. So I've been looking at that while I've been painting the mural. And we've also got Our Lady of the Rockies on the ridge line.
It was the artist's first time in Montana, and he was impressed by Butte's historic uptown architecture.
Because it's like a time capsule and it's so well preserved, film directors have come here, used it as locations, artists, and so I'm just continuing the tradition.
Heathcote credits many of the friendly locals who helped him get this project done.
Everyone I've encountered has been generous with their time, enthusiastic, positive, and it's just been a really lovely experience painting here.
In Butte, John Amy, MTN News.
Absolutely beautiful. Thank you very much for sharing that with us, John. Now, we're going to take a short break, but when we come back, we'll have your forecast, your top stories, and a really fascinating piece of health news. Federal regulators are discussing artificial wombs to be used for children born very premature. We'll have that story when we come back.